I analyzed over 50 replays of FAKER and uncovered all of the secret wave control tactics he uses to win games. In this guide, you'll learn how FAKER puts his opponents in unwinnable positions and sets himself up to get highlight plays on the enemy team. You'll discover the hidden secrets behind minions he uses to make solo kills like these look easy, and how you too can create easy tower dives the enemy can't escape from, all while being ungankable from the enemy jungler. But first, if you're feeling stuck where you just can't rank up no matter how hard you try, then Skill-Capped is the solution you've been looking for. We have the most extensive collection of premium courses tailored for every single role. The best part though is you can try our service completely risk-free. If you don't rank up while actively using Skill-Capped, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below to get the rank you've always wanted. Alright, now the first thing I noticed FAKER doing every game is what I call the push and harass. In this clip, FAKER is playing Yone. Every time he gets his third Q stack, he'll aim it so that it hits the entire minion wave and the enemy at the same time. This allows him to get both a push advantage and land harass at the same time. Again, notice how once he gets his third Q stack, he aims it to both last hit and hit the enemy. So why does he do this? Well, pushing in and of itself is very powerful. For one, in the first example, he hit level 3 over Diana by having the minion advantage from his pushing, letting him win that trade. And in the second example, you can see how he was able to land a free W as Diana can't fight back into a minion wave with no minions of her own. Again, next third stack of his Q, he's able to hit both the minions and Diana. You can see how he even does this with his W. This is suffocating for the enemy laner. They're both stuck being pinned down to the tower while getting lower and lower on health, and in this case, dying. This isn't the real power of this tactic though. Let me show you. Here FAKER is on Akali. Notice how at the start of this trade, he again makes sure to land his Q so it hits the opponent and all the caster minions at the same time. Additionally, notice how he's taking the trade near the enemy's backline, where he can both trade and damage the wave, while any damage Yone lands will only be on Akali, not her minions too. So on the surface, this seems like a run-of-the-mill trade, but in reality, pushing the wave while harassing is absolutely key to this next step. As we follow the minions into the enemy's tower, notice how the enemy's incoming wave gets caught on it. This causes the next wave to now be near the opponent's tower. And this is what's known as the even minion rule. When two waves are equal in minions, it will push towards the tower it's further away from. This is because reinforcing minion waves will arrive in lane and damage the wave sooner for the tower it's closest to, causing a push. To make this easier to understand and memorize, all you have to know is that if you push a wave into the tower and an enemy wave gets stuck on it like this, it's going to rebound back to you. So why is this rebound so important for FAKER? Well, it lets you set up a freeze if you want to. And this is the second step to FAKER's plan. With Yone being low from the earlier trade, FAKER switches to no longer damaging minions and instead using the rebound to freeze, and look at how devastating this is for Yone. He has to either give up minions or use all of his abilities just to last hit them at max range. He's basically being slowly bled out of gold at this point. It's like FAKER has him checkmated. He waits around 30 seconds for the wave to push a bit further up the lane, so Yone is more overextended. He then times his aggression with two things. First, when Yone puts a key spell on cooldown, in this case, Yone's third Q just expired. And also, when Yone has to go up to last hit, as this forces him further up the lane. Bonus points for you guys that noticed how by timing your all-in with the opponent's last hits, you can often bait out an ability they have to use to last hit, and dodge it with your mobility like FAKER does. Hold on, Yone just lived with 1 HP. Didn't FAKER just mess up? Well, no. Remember, it's rebounding back towards us, so the wave is still all the way up the lane near our tower, causing the low health Yone to be, once again, checkmated. And after all of that, it's just FAKER doing FAKER things. Basically, when things are even, you start with the push and harass tactic to get a lead. Then, once you have an advantage over the opponent, you use your push to rebound, and then look to freeze and fight with your lead. Here's the thing though, you don't always get the rebound off a push. For example, in the first clip, notice how after FAKER kills Diana, he only has 3 minions he can push. This causes the tower to kill the wave before the incoming wave gets caught on it, causing a clean reset at the center of the lane. Basically, there's no rebound. FAKER does something incredibly smart to combat this though. So, as FAKER gets back to lane, he just solo killed Diana and is up on items. Notice how FAKER is purposely standing still right in the middle of his wave. He's actually doing this because he's baiting Diana to cue him to land harass. When she does, she not only damages him, but also all of his minions, causing it to push towards him. In the meantime, he's just last hitting, he's avoiding damaging the enemy minions. Basically, he just set up a trap that Diana fell for, and now he's back to having a devastating freeze. And again, he's going to time his aggression off the enemy putting an ability on cooldown as they go to last hit. You can see how bad of a position Diana is in. She's being forced to go all the way up the lane to last hit, and whenever she uses an ability to try and push to harass or reset the wave, FAKER just immediately goes in to punish. Now, do keep in mind, once FAKER gets Diana this low, you actually don't have to maintain the freeze like you saw him do before and eventually kill them that way. If you have enough of a health lead, and also be aware of your level up timings, you can actually just switch into pushing with the intent of just tower diving them. Now, what about when either your champion or the matchup means you won't be able to get the push advantage? Well, Faker shows us exactly how to handle that in this game where he's playing Nico against Orianna. As the laning phase starts, I want you to pay attention to the ability usage from both players. First, Orianna casts her Q here, hitting 2 melees and missing Faker. Faker then casts his Q, hitting 1 caster and hitting Orianna. Now, on Orianna's next cast, she hits the entire wave with her Q and doesn't even look to hit Faker. Faker returns not by using the Q on the minions, but only focusing Orianna. Faker is basically saying, alright, you can get the push advantage by using abilities on minions, but I'm going to punish you for it by taking your health. Now, as this wave crashes into Faker's tower, pay attention to the minions. See anything familiar? Yeah, his minions got stuck on Orianna's minions, meaning a rebound is occurring. So as the second waves meet, Orianna is basically fighting against this rebound. And here's a pivotal moment that swings the lane. Notice how Orianna hits level 2 first, but check out what she does. She throws a Q that hits 2 casters and misses Faker, and then activates W that misses everything. Now compare that to what Faker just did. He landed a perfect Q that not only hit Orianna, but also nearly the entire minion wave. And for the final nail in the coffin, lands another Q that both hits the minions and Orianna. At this point, Faker is not only massively ahead in health, but also has regained the push lead, and has clearly won his lane in just 3 levels. So what exactly happened here? Well, remember what Faker did when facing Diana as Yone, and he wanted her to push. He just stood in the wave, so abilities both hit him and the minions. Compare that to how he played against this Orianna. He stands outside of the wave, so Orianna has to decide between using abilities to harass him or push the wave. There were 2 pivotal moments. First was when Orianna chose to use her ability only on the wave. This gave Faker a free timing window to land damage without taking any in return. And second was off the rebound. Orianna was fighting against it, trying to maintain that push lead, but as soon as she mispositioned inside her wave like this, it was over, as it let Faker both damage Ori and the minions. To show you how Orianna should have played this, we surprise surprise have a Faker game. This time he's playing Azir against Orianna. Notice how Faker is going to constantly stand outside of his wave, so Orianna has to choose between damaging the minions or him, never both. Remember, that was the key mistake the last Orianna kept making. She stood in her minion wave, letting Faker both land harass and push. Another thing is notice how just like the last Orianna, he's going to use an ability to only damage the minions, but pay attention to his positioning. He's so far away, he's basically max range. He's making it incredibly difficult for the enemy Orianna to land harass on him during this window. Now, compare that to the last Orianna he faced. After Orianna uses her Q on the minions, her positioning is so much closer after she puts it on cooldown, which is why she gets tagged by Nico's Q. It's really the positioning that made all the difference. You can see how Faker went all in on getting the push advantage early, landing no damage on Orianna, but with better positioning, he didn't take enough damage to be punished for it. So as we head into the second wave, he has the push lead and hits level 2 first, which then sets him up to land some nice poke while the enemy is still level 1. However, it's when the wave crashes does this positioning difference really become obvious. Watch how Orianna uses her Q and W only on minions. Again, this is not a mistake by itself, but it is a mistake when you don't reposition to a safe distance, as you'll just get poked down while your abilities are on cooldown. Faker pretty much wins this lane with that one concept alone. Notice here how Orianna again uses her Q and W on the wave to last it, but the real mistake is when she uses her E to pick up this last it. This is the longest cooldown of her 3 spells at 9 seconds. So even though her Q and W are now back up, Faker is going to force the trade knowing she's missing the damage, shield, and resistances from her E. And if you want to see something really nasty, check out what Faker does at level 9. Again, Orianna puts her E on cooldown for a last hit. Faker now knows she has no way of pulling the ball back to her once she uses her Q. So he runs at her, casts W and Q, and as soon as Orianna casts her Q, he E's onto her, dodging her ult so she can't pull the ball back. After watching replay after replay of Faker, it's actually insane how often he wins his lane just using tactics around minions. For example, here he's playing Jace against Talon. It starts off simple enough. Faker looks to time harass when the enemy wastes an ability trying to last it. Shortly after though, we see an advanced tactic that you should immediately steal. So Faker is about to finish clearing the entire enemy wave and crashes minions into the tower. In these positions, try to force a trade right after you clear the minions. Notice how Talon tries to trade back, but immediately is forced to run away as now an entire minion wave has aggroed onto him. Here's another extremely clean execution of a simple tactic. So Faker is level 3 while Talon is level 2. Obviously, Faker wants to engage and Talon knows that. So look what Faker does. He inputs a movement command backwards right as one of his minions gets low. This signals to Talon it could be safe to last hit it. However, right after he inputs that backwards command, he's going to run forward, causing Talon to actually be the one walking into him. This then puts him in range to jump onto Talon, getting a huge winning trade. And finally, just a very fundamental example showing the power of pushing. you can see Faker rain down Harass on Talon while he's pinned to the tower trying to farm a giant wave, eventually being forced to recall. And by the way, if you're someone who finds all the different concepts of wave control very overwhelming and confusing, then I highly recommend taking our course on wave control at skillcap.com. It will literally teach you everything you need to know about wave control, but in a way that's super easy to understand and lets you implement into your own games right away. You can unlock the full course by clicking the link in the description below. Alright, and with that previous section under our belt, I know you may be thinking, this is great that Faker gets all this done when he pushes, but when I try this, I'm going to just get ganked by the entire enemy team on repeat. Well, we actually created an entire guide on this called the Faker ward, which is a very specific ward Faker uses to protect himself when he pushes. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't, as it pairs extremely well with this guide. However, in my experience, there are two key concepts most players are missing that make them fail at pushing strategies. First is that most players don't understand how your escape route is probably not going to be towards your tower. Let me explain. So here, Faker is playing Nico, and through all the strategies we've outlined, he has a health lead. And just like in your own games, a jungler is now flashing on him to gank. Now, Faker still has flash up, and most players would flash upwards towards their tower. That would actually be a mistake, as they just get run down the lane. Some more experienced players might have thought, well, we flash towards the river, which most of the time is the correct choice. However, look at what Faker does. He flashes over the wall into the enemy's jungle to create even more separation, cause the enemy to lose vision, and prevent any more damage. Now, don't get me wrong, the reason why this is going to work out is because Faker was aware his bot lane had lane priority and his jungler was bot side, meaning they could get to him before the enemy bot lane. However, the point is, when Vi first showed, how many of you thought flashing into the enemy's jungle was even a viable way of escaping a gank? This concept is key to pushing successfully. You have to be aware, you don't just have one escape path towards your tower. Treat the entire opposite side of where the enemy jungler is ganking from as a viable escape route, and you'll realize why you've been dying so much. Now, the second reason your push strategies are failing is actually very simple, but trust me, I have been playing and teaching League for over 10 years, and this is by far one of the biggest reasons players fail to carry their games. Here, we see Faker on Azir, he's half health, the enemy Orianna is low, and he's super pushed up damaging the tower. We can see the enemy jungler above us looking to gank. This is terrifying, and 99% of players would run away. However, Faker decides to stay, and look what happens. He ults Poppy away, and then takes 70% of her health while taking nearly zero damage. You see, most players make the mistake of being scared of being ganked throughout the entire game. However, once you get far enough of your lane opponent, you have to switch your mentality. You're now far enough ahead that you actually want to use your pushing to bait the enemy to gank you, either so you can turn on them and kill them, or so you can just waste the jungler's time revealing them on the map and giving the rest of your team a huge advantage. Alright, so far we've gone over the wave control techniques Faker uses in the early laning phase around levels 1 to 6. However, things do change once you hit level 7. This is due to two reasons. Firstly, you'll have 4 points in your main wave clear ability, and secondly, you'll have recalled 1 to 2 times by this point, having converted your gold into items that increase your damage. This means it becomes both far easier and faster to push, and so it's very rare at level 7 plus do you see someone trying to freeze. For example, here Faker is on Nico and is level 7. Despite being ahead in levels and health on Orianna, he's choosing to just push. Meanwhile, look at what his jungler is doing, invading the enemy's blue buff, and then the wolves after. Again, next wave arrives, and Faker just pushes it as fast as possible. If we check in on our jungler, he's actually fighting Vi at the wolves. Here's the thing though, by pushing the wave, Faker has pinned the enemy mid to the tower. They have to choose between helping their jungler, which would result in them losing the wave to the tower, or staying at the tower to get the minions. This is the power of pushing in these later levels. You're taking the enemy laner off the map completely by pinning them with the wave. The second thing that makes it so powerful is you're able to pin the opponent into then roaming yourself. For example, here Faker baits Orianna to use an ability on him instead of the wave, and then just uses his Q to instantly clear the wave after. Now, Orianna is pinned down by the wave, we pushed, and we have a timing window to roam before the next wave arrives. It's this combination of both pinning the opponent while then freeing yourself up to roam that makes pushing so powerful past level 7. And if you're someone who just feels useless during this phase of the game, we actually have the perfect course for you on mid lane macro. It teaches you every concept you need to learn to master this phase of the game in bite-sized, impactful lessons that are easy to digest and implement. You can unlock the full course by clicking the link in the description below. Now, obviously, it's not like every single wave you're going to have an opportunity to roam. Instead, as you see Faker do here, often after you clear a wave, you're simply getting the advantage of pinning the opponent. And then, if nothing is happening on the map, you clear vision nearby before the next wave arrives. You see the same thing on the next wave. Faker pushes to pin the opponent, then uses that time to control nearby vision. Now, here's the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to pushing in these later levels. You actually want to be on the lookout for tower dives. Tower dives actually turn into one of the most consistent ways to get kills on your laner. Diana is being forced into staying here, as we're shoving the wave into her tower. If she leaves, her tower will actually just destroy the whole wave. And do keep in mind, you don't always need your jungler to do a tower dive. The main concept here is that if you have a big lead on your opponent, by pushing a wave, you're forcing them to have to stay in lane to pick up the CS. Compare that to setting up a freeze. Talon wouldn't have to stay in lane. If he wanted, he could just choose to go off and roam. Sure, if you're setting up a freeze, he will be losing minions as he roams, but it will be significantly slower since a tower isn't killing the minions. On top of this, if you push instead of freeze, you're threatening tower damage on top of the enemy losing minions faster. This is why you have to be aware that when you have a lead, it can often be best to just push a big wave into the tower like FAKER does here. Pin the enemy down, bait them to stay and farm it, and then set up an easy tower dive for yourself. And as a bonus, I actually uncovered a really advanced trick FAKER uses during this phase of the game. So here we're going to see something you've probably experienced in every game. Tryndamere solo kills our top laner. Now pay attention to three things. First, Tryndamere uses Ghost. Second, Tryndamere uses Flash. And third, Tryndamere uses his ultimate. Now it goes without saying, that Tryndamere is incredibly easy to gank for us with those three things on cooldown. However, there's another level to this. You see, when you gank a lane like FAKER does here, after they've killed your teammate, it means once your teammate respawns, they can actually go cover your lane for you. You see, usually when you gank a lane, if your teammate isn't dead, they're going to spam back pings on you to get out of their lane ASAP so they can farm the minions. This can often result in you losing out on a wave or two in order to roam. However, if you gank a lane after your teammate dies, it means after that successful gank, you get to farm the whole wave by yourself, as you can see FAKER does here. And in the meantime, your teammate goes and farms your lane, preventing tower damage and loss of minions. And there you go. You've now uncovered FAKER's wave control secrets, and I can guarantee if you start implementing them into your own game, you're going to see results. As that's kind of our whole thing here at Skillcapped. We focus on things that actually help you climb ranks and simplify them so they're easy to understand. If you're feeling stuck where you just can't rank up no matter how hard you try, then Skillcapped is the solution you've been looking for. We have the most extensive collection of premium courses tailored for every single role. If you're still skeptical, don't worry. You can try out Skillcapped completely risk-free. If you don't rank up while actively using our service, you get your money back, no questions asked. You can unlock this game-changing opportunity right now through the link below. So what are you waiting for? Click the link to get the rank you've always wanted. All right, and that will do it for this one. We here at Skillcapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.